The first day of proceedings in the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry have wrapped up for the day, with KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi giving testimony, and we now reflect further with Professor Dumisani Mabunda from the Unisa College of Law. Prof, a very good afternoon to you. Day one has been wrapped as we saw that testimony by the police commissioner, the provincial police commissioner there. What did you make of some of the things that came out of today? Of course, that decision to disband the political killings task team being referred to by the general himself as bizarre, irrational, irregular and wrong.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the viewers. I have been watching the proceedings since this morning. I'm grateful that this opportunity finally unfolds. The general has spoken throughout the day, and yeah, there is a lot of things that were said which cannot be covered in this interview, but I'm sure as the proceedings unfold, we will have a lot of say as experts in various fields. So I'm grateful to have this opportunity to reflect on what has transpired in this day. When the general speaks, the nation listens. You can imagine if these issues were raised by a low-ranking officer, it would have been ignored. It was interesting to hear General Mkhwanazi saying that he tried several issues, several platforms to raise these issues, and every time he would face a brick wall until that 6th July interview that the nation is aware of. So he outlined some of the things today. I'm sure he will be given an opportunity to say a number of things. Unfortunately, there is this classifying of information policy in the country where some of the things the nation will be able to hear and see, but unfortunately some of the things which are classified as high risk will not necessarily be told to the public.
And Prof, while some of that information will be classified as well, what has come out of it, some of the revelations are still quite jaw-dropping and shocking indeed, when we also listen to him speak about how the minister could have come to that decision, who was consulted, and if this decision was indeed irregular and, of course, not done in the proper manner. When he also was speaking about this unit having a solid track record, having a good success rate, so it not making any sense to actually go for this particular political killings task team when there's plenty others as well that haven't proven to be as effective. What did you make of some of those comments?
Yeah, you see, when there are no clearly defined roles, there is bound to be clashes amongst the role players. We have seen it in the past where the previous national commissioner would do certain things that the community thought was not part of his duties. So the same thing continued in this instance where as we know that power corrupts. The minister might have thought that he do not have to inform anyone. He can take a decision because he is in charge, not knowing that his decision may backfire. So as a nation, we have to learn that there are boundaries. Responsibilities comes with boundaries. We have to be aware of the roles that we need to play. If the commissioner was aware of the roles that he can play and those that he cannot play, he would have consulted with other people. And the issue of advisors for this kind of portfolios becomes necessary, because if you come to a portfolio like the police minister and you don't have the right advisors, the chances of you taking wrong decisions, as we've seen in the past, are greater. So it is a learning curve. However, the commissions like this will do a very proper job because we have qualified commissioners as we have had in the past. But my question is, what will become of the commission and the recommendations? Because we have had in the past where politicians will gloatingly say, but those are just recommendations, so we are not bound by recommendations. So that is my sole worry. But I also have a hope because there's a parallel structure in Parliament which will also deal with the same issue. The issue that I'm concerned about is a duplication and contradiction by some of the witnesses which may be called in this first commission and have to appear in the parliamentary commission.
And with that parallel process as well, with the ad hoc committee also conducting the same, and of course, the General Mkhwanazi will appear before that ad hoc committee too, and you speak of this duplication as well. So we will be hearing more of the same testimony, but then the questions still remain. I mean, there are many more questions that are coming out of today's testimony, especially when it comes to those that he has fingered in being involved. Some of the revelations and jaw-dropping revelations, indeed, is mentioning that there seems to have been somewhat of a shadowy force on the side that was applying pressure on the minister to ensure that this letter of disbandment is issued. You heard the general saying that the chief of staff of the minister allegedly was saying that it went back and forth. And when advocates are asked back and forth between the minister and whom, we don't have that answer per se as to who was influencing the minister. You mentioned having advisors that, of course, he didn't go and seek the advice from the interministerial committee or the commissioner, the provincial or national. So who exactly would be advising the minister on such decisions?
You're asking good questions, but I do not have answers. But I'm hoping that some of the questions that you are asking will be answered in these in-camera sessions, because you hear the general saying that there are certain things that he cannot outline in this public space. So hopefully they will be outlined in that session, but unfortunately, society will not know of that part of the revelations. Me and you can sit in front of the TV the whole day and hear part of what General Mkhwanazi is alleging, but it's a tip of an iceberg. There is a lot more that will not be made public to the communities. So, but there is a hope that some of the things will be declassified so that the public know whether General Mkhwanazi's allegations have substance or not.
You know, earlier, Prof, you mentioned something quite interesting when you were saying when the general speaks, we listen. Can you imagine had this been a lower ranking officer, these revelations probably wouldn't have come to light. So what should we make of the fact that General Mkhwanazi went through almost every single possible platform and channel to try and get some sort of resolution when it came to this, before he then, that led to him that media briefing on the 6th of July, resorting to that once being seemingly stonewalled. Now, as citizens, for you and I who are watching this, listening to him saying, I contacted all the relevant persons, I even contacted the minister himself, and to say, let's arrange a meeting, and to date, that meeting has not taken place. What message should we take home from that?
This is how corruption is so bad, because as we've seen with whistleblowers, they want to alert certain authorities that there's a rot somewhere, but they are afraid of their lives. So it takes guts and determination to say, come what may, I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And also where politics plays in the criminal justice system, then we are in a slippery slope towards the mafia state. I may sound pessimistic, but If one looks at the broken window syndrome, it means that we have to address small things because they will degenerate into bigger things. So General Mkhwanazi today mentioned that we were at the tail end of South Africa becoming uncontrollable. He mentioned the risks that if he didn't come out to speak, we would be at the door of that mafia state that I'm talking about. But we are hopeful that commissions like this will help uncover certain things. But the question of how these things that are uncovered will be dealt with is a topic for another day, because we have seen with various similar commissions. I can talk about the Zondo Commission, which came up with good recommendations. And we heard Judge Zondo saying that at some stage he had to swear certain officials which he flagged during his commission. So that paints a bleak picture for the country, but we must remain hopeful that this commission and the parallel structure in Parliament will help us bring some sort of order in a country that is moving towards the direction of a mafia state.
I think the General described it as nearing a total collapse. Prof, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us this afternoon. That, of course, was Professor Dumisani Mabunda, who's from Unisa College of Law.